Hey guys, it's Matt, welcome to SpeedTutor, and I know we've heard everything to death in regards to the Unity and the whole situation, and I'm hopeful that we will hear something very soon in regards to changes on the pricing. There was an article released on Bloomberg talking about the price changes and the things that we may expect to see when Unity change their mind on this whole process, and we'll go through that. But I wanted to say that even the former CEO of Unity, who's still on the board, made a tweet himself, and I like accountability in a lot of situations. I don't believe anything is ever done out of just by accident or not expecting things to go a particular way. I think it's a big oversight if that was even the case, but I don't think it's possible. Needless to say, David Helgeson, he actually said this was messed up on many levels, using a far harsher word than I'm putting. So no other way to put it in this situation. A new business model for Unity was announced, and it was really hard to understand. But it also missed a bunch of corner cases, and in a central way ended up the opposite of what it was supposed to be. Now he's saying that they need to try again, try much harder, and he personally is optimistic about the progress, so he is personally sorry about the mess that it's created. Now this was a big factor, that it wasn't just about the fee that changed, it wasn't just about the installations. As we know, it won't affect the majority of developers. It was more so everything in one, especially with the terms of services that have changed just out of the blue with some uncertainty on how it could change in the future. So again, I like some level of accountability, but we really need action to change it. I think if Unity had have given out a public-wide survey about exactly the changes that they were going to make and ask people based on a revenue share or the install count, talk about the intricacies, even release some official video content explaining ideas, they could have got the public temperature on exactly what they thought, get the data, and then make an applicable change to the policies, and this could have been a credible way to do it, because as long as you ask the developers, the people who use the engine themselves, what they thought about this issue, and then work around that. Because ultimately the company is there to make money, and the engine needs to make more to continue development, whatever that needs to be, but they could have done this in a far better way. Now this is where we go to this article, and this was a few days ago and based on Monday that Unity is backtracking on major aspects of the controversial new price hike, telling staff in an all hands on deck kind of meeting that it's now proposing changes including a cap on potential fees. So as we already know, Unity is a game engine for game developers to make video games, and they were going to charge customers for every new installation, and the decision was widespread panic, widespread anger, and everything across the game dev sphere. And a lot of people wanted to boycott Unity. Under the new plans, Unity will limit fees to 4% of the game's revenue for customers making over $100 million, and the installations counted towards reaching the threshold won't be retroactive. With this being said, the 4% over 1 million, that is a percent lower than Unreal Engine. Now, I did hear that somebody said that 1 million cap is every quarter rather than Unity's most likely every year, so that makes a slight difference there. Then again, with this pricing change, it will still be more expensive than the previous model, but it will just catch the edge cases, be easier to understand, and I just think generally better. And everybody's favourite CEO at Unity did delay a hands-on meeting about price changes because of the death threats and other things that were going on at the time. And as we know, Unity have subsequently apologised for the issues, the confusion, the new policy. Mark Whitten, a Unity executive, said that there's no announcement just yet, but Unity is still working with their partners and don't want to repeat all the debacle that's happened, and want to make several clarifications. And one of the most controversial elements of the policy was that how Unity were going to track installations of the actual software. And although the company said that it was using proprietary tools, Whitten said on Monday that management will rely on users self-reporting this data. So as we know, that Unity said that they have some sort of magical special way that they will track installations, nobody knows. Not even, I don't think Unity know exactly how it was going to be tracked, but now they'll rely on game developers to actually be truthful in reporting the data, which of course was one thing that Unity supposedly wanted to avoid, because it was hard to get that data, because obviously there's legal requirements to get data and be able to make sure that that's verified. In the meeting, John Riccitiello emphasized that new policy is designed to generate more revenue from the company's biggest customers, and that 90% of Unity's users won't be affected, as we saw before. Now, several employees in the meeting asked how Unity would bounce back from the breach of trust. An executive said that they will show and not tell, and they will handle future communications more carefully. Now, I feel as if we've heard this before. We've heard how communication needed to be more transparent, communication needed to be better, and we've not improved over this time, but hopefully this was one step too far, and they know that they can't push this down the road anymore. And Riccatello himself said, I don't think there's any version of this that could have gone down a whole lot differently than what happened, and because it's such a massively transformable change to the business model, and he acknowledges that they could have done a lot of things better. Now, I don't believe that's the case. I believe every decision that's ever made on a high level is made for a reason. I think, yes, there would have still been many that would have complained about a difference in revenue model and other things like that. Even if it was a percentage, it was always going to come up. There was always going to be issues with things to get announced. But this wasn't one issue. This was the terms of services change, that Unity could change their pricing at any time. Edge cases, if you released a popular mobile game and you could end up losing more money than you earned. The confusion around, if it's pirated, does it count as installs? What even counts as an install? How do we get around these issues? What about if you used a bundle? What about if you used Game Pass? There was nothing which came out from a legitimate source, whether it was blog posts, videos, or anything like that, reassuring everybody exactly how this method was going to work with full transparency and exactly how they thought they were going to collect data. And if they were, and like I said, they could have ushered this in with a massive survey to get the temperature of the community, decide which style of revenue model would have gone down the best, and ask questions based on that, and then taken the feedback and applied that with the biggest things that we can look at. I hope things do change and they come out with a really good explanation for everything, a really good new policy, touch on the terms and conditions, and really sort this out, because people need to be reassured. They need to somehow work this trust back in and really bring the developers back, because it's been the worst situation that I've ever experienced in the last 10 or so years. So thank you so much for coming to watch. Be sure to check out my Patreon to get access to over 200 different scripts, assets and projects you cannot find anywhere else. And be sure to check out all my assets on my website for massive savings. And thank you to all my patrons. Big thank you to Peter Steiner and everybody else who comes to watch the video. So don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Cheers.